Is God founder Acharya Śrī Prabhupada ki Jai. PT founder Śrīla Prabhupada ki Jai. Namacharya Śrī Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Brahmsivaho Śrī Krishna Caitanya. Prabhu Nityananda Śrī Advaita Gadadhar Śrīvasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Govinda Shama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhana ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki Jai. Mayapur Navadvip Dham ki Jai. Ganga Maya ki Jai. Jamuna Mai ki jai, Tulsi Devi ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Shri Radha Govinda ki jai, Shri Jai-nitāi ki jai, ISKCON, New York ki jai, Jai-nitāi, Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the lotus feet of Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So it is my great honor and privilege to be here at the world-famous Radha Govinda Temple with the devotees of Brooklyn who are so ecstatically engaged in Harinam Sankirtan and distributing Srila Prabhupada's books. It's always an ecstatic energy and that atmosphere, so I feel very honored and privileged, very grateful that I was asked to give class and speak something, although I'm extremely disqualified to speak anything or be sitting here, because I've been asked, I'm trying to perform this as service, so therefore I would like to request the blessings of all the assembled devotees that you see fit to please bestow your mercy upon me so that I can speak something relevant and bona fide from the pages of this most exalted scripture, the Grantharaj Śrī Caitanya-caritāmṛta, which is, according to His Divine Grace, the PhD of spiritual life, and I certainly do not have a PhD. So I will need your mercy, please, to speak something relevant. So we will begin with the invocation. Everyone can please repeat. Jai Jai Śrī Caitanya, Jai-nitāi. Jai Jai Śrī Caitanya, Jai-nitāi. Jai-nitāi Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai-nitāi Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Śrī Caitanya, Jai-nitāi. Jai-nitāi Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So reading from Caitanya-caritāmṛta, Ādi-līlā, chapter 2, verse 19. Anantaspatike ache ekashurya vase. Ache diva govinderam shaprakashe. Anantaspatike ache ekashurya vase. Ache diva govinderam shaprakashe. Anantaspatike ache surya bhase. Ache jive govinderam shaprakashe.
Tache Jive Govindera, Govindara, Govindera, Amsa Prakashe. Tache Jive Govindera, Amsa Prakashe.
Anantas Bhakti Yache Eka Surya Bhase.
Anantas Bhakti Yache Eka Surya Bhase.
Tache Jive Govindera, Amsa Prakashe.
Tache Jive Govindera, Amsa Prakashe.
Right as he said Govinda, the curtains opened. Shri Govinda ki jai. Shri Caitanya-caritāmṛta ki jai. Ladies, please. Word for word translation. Ananta, unlimited, Spatike, in crystals, Yache, just as, Eka, one, Surya, sun, Vase, appears, Taiche, just so, Jive, in the living entity, Govindera, of Shri Govinda, Hamsha, portion, Prakashe, translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. As the sun appears reflected in countless jewels, so Govinda manifests himself as Paramatma in the hearts of all living beings. Purport. The sun is situated in a specific location, but is reflected in countless jewels and appears in innumerable localized aspects. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although eternally present in His transcendental abode of Goloka Vrindavan, is reflected in everyone's heart as the Super Soul. In the Upanishads, it is said that the Jiva, the living entity, and the Paramatma, Super Soul, are like two birds sitting in the same tree. The Super Soul engages the living being in executing fruitive work as a result of his deeds in the past. But the Paramatma has nothing to do with such engagements. As soon as the living being ceases to act in terms of fruitive work and takes to the service of the Lord, the Paramatma, coming to know the service of the Lord, the Paramatma, coming to know of His supremacy, he is immediately freed from all designations, and in that pure state he enters the kingdom of God, known as Vaikuntha. The Paramatma, or Super Soul, the guide of the individual living beings, does not take part in fulfilling the desires of the living beings, but he arranges for their fulfillment by material nature. As soon as an individual soul becomes conscious of his eternal relationship with the Super Soul and looks only toward him, he at once becomes free from the entanglements of material enjoyment. Christian philosophers who do not believe in the law of karma put forward the argument that it is absurd to say one must accept the results of past deeds of which he has no consciousness. Even a criminal is first reminded of his misdeeds by witnesses in a law court and then he is punished. If death is complete forgetfulness, why should a person be punished for his past misdeeds? The conception of the Paramatma is an invincible answer to these fallacious arguments. The Paramatma is the witness of the past activities of the individual living being. A man may not remember what he has done in his childhood, but his father, who has seen him grow through different stages of development, certainly remembers. Similarly, the living being undergoes many changes of body through many lives, but the Supersoul is always with him and remembers all his activities, despite his evolution through different bodies. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Om Gyanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Gena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Śrī Caitanya-caritāmṛta Sthapitam Gena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Bhagunatam Vitam Tam Zajivam Savetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. Anantaspati ke yache ekashwara vase tache jiva govinda ram shaprakasa. As one sun appears reflected in countless jewels, so Govinda manifests himself as Paramatma in the hearts of all living beings. Technology is great when it works, and when it doesn't, Everyone see that?
Yes.
So this is a very powerful verse and report on one of my favorite topics. I think we have limited time. We're sharp finish it before 9 o'clock, right? So I'll endeavor to. I only have 52 slides, so we'll have to go very quick. So everyone fasten your seatbelts. Okay. Just kidding. So Paramatma is a very powerful, important topic, and Srila Prabhupada discusses it very nicely here, threadbare, as you can say. Paramatma was one of those topics when I first came to Krishna consciousness and heard about it, because for me, coming from Western background, I'd never heard of Paramatma. But I remember as a child being brought up and we were always taught to pray. And I was thinking, well, how can God hear me? How can God actually hear my prayers? I mean, he must have pretty big ears. And sometimes I used to whisper really softly when I would pray. I wonder if he can hear me now. And I would think, but not only how can he hear me, how is he hearing the prayers of so many people at one time? I thought, this just can't be possible. How can God actually be present personally with everyone and paying attention to them? Because all I could understand is in school, even a teacher with 25 or 30 students couldn't really pay attention to everyone in the class. What to speak of, whatever, 6 billion people on the planet, let's say half of them are theistic. So 3 billion people praying to one person. How can that person hear all of these prayers? And so when I first heard this idea of Paramatma, I was like, that is amazing. Just like Prabhupada said, it just defeats, it's definitive. You can't defeat that. All of a sudden you can understand that God is personally present with each and every single one of us. So he can easily hear our prayers. What to speak of so many other things. So Srila Prabhupada, or rather Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, is explaining that as the one sun appears reflected in countless jewels. And I was thinking how this understanding that each and every living being, is a divine spark of Krishna's splendor. Every single living entity is simply a fragmented particle of the Supreme, a divinely reflected particle, and each and every one unique. Just as there is no jewel or gem that is identical, each and every one unique, and each and every one of you are individual and unique sparks of the splendor of God. Isn't that amazing? I mean, we might not think I'm so amazing, I'm a spark, but we are actually sparks of Krishna's splendor. This is incredible. And each and every one of us around, each and every one around you is also a spark. So you can look around for a moment and just see the glistening sparks of the splendor of God. No one looked around, everyone's too afraid. Only those at the back are looking around. So then Krishna says that, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explains that Govinda, he manifests himself in the hearts of every living entity. And we can see in this picture, it's not just in the hearts of those in human bodies, but in the hearts of each and every living entity. And this can be quite overwhelming. If you were actually really seeing like this, I mean, especially when I'm in India and there are lots of mosquitoes, I always think, oh, how can I see the Jiva and the Paramatma in that mosquito, when all I want to do is swat the mosquito, or some bugs especially, draw out our nature to want to dominate over and some cockroach or some spider or something like that. But inside that body is a Jivatma. And not only a Jivatma, but Paramatma. So God is actually personally present even in the body of a cockroach. I know you don't have cockroaches here in New York, right? No? But rats. I have seen rats. Every morning we're walking to the Bhakti Center and we walk down what we call Rat Alley. And all the trash bags are laid out and you just see them shooting back and forth. And, we're always afraid they're going to patter over your feet. But inside of that rat is a Paramatma. Krishna is inside of that rat. Lord, help us. So in the Bhagavad Gita, I was reminded these verses 13 through 16, where Krishna is explaining that there are actually three doers. Three doers. Often we hear, I know for years I heard devotees say, "You're not the doer, Prabhu." Right? Anyone's ever heard that? Maybe it still happens. You're not the doer. Then later when I realized that, no, I am the doer. I'm definitely one of the doers. I would always retort, say, "No, Prabhu, I am a partial doer." I am partially a doer. Why? Because everyone knows what the three doers are. Someone can tell me what they think the three doers, everyone knows? Who are the three doers? Prabhuji? That's a great answer. That was another thing when I heard it. I thought, why didn't they teach me this in 3rd grade? Ādi-līlā, Ādi-līlā, Ādi-līlā. Why didn't they tell me about the threefold miseries? Instead, I went through my whole life thinking I could enjoy it, thinking that every time something nasty happened, that it must be my fault. But no, that's the nature of the material world. So in one sense, you just described the material energy. So that is one of the doers. So you are correct. Haribol! Anyone else knows other doers? Say again?
Soul, super soul.
The soul and the super soul, yes. Of course you all already knew this. The Jiva, Prakriti, the material energy, and the Paramatma. These are the three doers. And it's described, Prabhupada explained in the purport, that simply the soul desires. As a Jiva, we're just simply desiring. And the Lord doesn't interfere as the super soul with our desires. We all have the free will to desire as we like. But the super soul sanctions. We may desire to be millionaires, maybe to do so many things. We have so many, I'm sure none of you have any desires other than service to Krishna, service to Krishna, service to Krishna. But unfortunately, a lowly grihasta like myself, I am riddled with desires. So Super Soul sanctions because, as Prabhupada said in the purport, he remembers everything. The Super Soul has been there from the beginning with us in the heart of so many different bodies. And according to Shastra, we've been through so many different bodies to get to the point of being in a human body. We have been in so many different bodies. So the Super Soul sanctions, and then the modes of material nature carry out everything. Prakriti kriyamanani guna karmani sarvasha ahankara vimudatma kartahamiti manyate. The one who is bewildered by false ego thinks that he's the doer of activities. But actually, it's simply Prakriti. The modes of material nature are carrying everything out. This verse is bewildering. It's so difficult to understand how the modes of material nature are working. I remember His Holiness Indrajumna Maharaj gave this class once in Soho Street in London. Very similar to Book Brooklyn temple, it's right on a busy street, so much stuff going on. And he was talking about the 3 modes of material nature and karma. And then right as he was talking, we heard this motorcycle go by outside, because there's busy, Oxford Street is right next door. And you could hear that it was specifically a Harley Davidson. And you can hear it, you can tell when there's a Harley motorcycle. It just makes the most noise. And Maharaj said, just like that man sitting on that motorcycle, and then he described, he's probably covered, he's probably got long hair, long beard, he's got a leather jacket, probably with some bones hanging off of it, these metal spikes. He's sitting on this loud machine, and he's like just completely covered in tamagoon. But he's sitting on that motorcycle thinking, I am so cool. And he's being tortured by the material energy. He's sitting on this machine that's so loud he can't even hear himself think, covered in dead animal skin and bones, and like long, ratty, smelly hair, probably hasn't bathed, and yet he thinks everything is wonderful. And he said, so the material energy is manipulating us in so many different ways and we don't even realize it. So Srila Prabhupada says, the Paramatma or Supersoul, the guide of the individual living beings, does not take part in fulfilling the desires of the living beings, but he arranges for their fulfillment by material nature. So when I first read this, I thought, yes, but he's still taking part. Come on, Prabhupada. Don't let Krishna off the hook that easy. It's like, he's still participating. But actually, it's described there that the Lord, he's not responsible for these things. He's simply the facilitator. He's the sanctioner. If your desire is qualified, if you have the correct Ādi card to get your desire, then the Lord sanctions. But he doesn't do it himself. He gives it to the material energy to do. So like that. So the super soul of the Paramatma. It's also described there that the Lord is our constant companion. And that he is, the analogy that's given is just like we can smell a flower. We can realize the presence of the flower simply by the aroma, the fragrance. In the same way, the super soul senses and understands the desires of the living entity. So the next time you're thinking of something that you know you shouldn't be thinking about, please know, Krishna already knows that. And the next time we might be doing something that we know we shouldn't be doing, please know, Krishna already sees everything. He is always there, present, because he is the witness of everything. He's witnessing everything. So we have to be very careful when we think we don't deserve something. Sometimes people think they don't deserve something because nobody saw or nobody knows, or I didn't say it to anyone. But Krishna knows what we're thinking, what we're desiring, and how we're acting. So he's the constant companion. But more important than the witness, Krishna is our friend. He's our eternal friend. And he goes with us through so many different bodies. Probably some of us were in a cockroach body. I definitely was. A rat's body, a fish body, a plant body, a horse body. So many different bodies we've been through. And Paramatma, or Super Soul, has been there present for every single one. And like the bird in the tree, Krishna is perpetually, hey, please listen. And we're like, shh, I'm trying to get on with my life. Leave me alone. No, please, just listen. Anyone hears that voice sometimes? Krishna saying, just listen. Anyone here tells it to be quiet? Be honest. Yeah. Maybe not so much now, but we used to. But when we listen to Krishna, we realize he is really, really trying to help us. What friend do you have who will be with you and stay with you through thick and thin, no matter what you do? I mean, it's hard to be a friend who's non-judgmental. Anyone finds that? Like, you're cool with people as long as they're doing what you think they should be doing. But then when they start to deviate a little bit, it's real easy to think, oh, forget them. Or if they say something that you don't agree with or you don't like. Anyone has that experience? But Krishna, we're just coming to the material world is against him. Does that make sense? Just being in a material body. Prabhupada said you should have the word criminal tattooed across your forehead. So just by having a material body means you're a crook, means you're a thief. And still, Krishna is there with us. Still, Krishna is there with us at every moment. And he's perpetually trying to give us good advice. But do we listen? So we have no friend better than Krishna. And Krishna sends his pure devotees to try to teach us how to have this equal vision. Vidyavanaya sampani brahmani gavi hastani shunichai visvapakecha pandita samadarshana. Equal vision, samadarshana. To see all living entities with the soul and supersoul inside of them. My question, do we have this vision? I'm sure everything I've said so far, you're like, we've heard it a million times, Jai-nitāi, we've got the t-shirt, read the book. I read Bhagavad Gita, I know this philosophy, right? I say the same thing. But do I practice the philosophy? Do I take every opportunity when I'm interacting with another person? And let's just deal with humans at the moment. Just interacting with another person, do I genuinely try to see the soul and the super soul within them? Shastra explains when we offer obeisances to each other, we're actually offering obeisances to what? To the super soul, to the Paramatma. Because within every body, God is present. So therefore I'm offering respect. So imagine as devotees of Krishna, how much of an onus is on us to treat everyone with deep and great respect and appreciation, recognizing that in your heart. So the next time you're dealing with someone in a shop or you're out on book distribution and somebody starts giving you a hard time, just try to remember, Krishna is in their heart. It's not easy, but this is the vision that we're meant to have. So, what to speak of general public? What about the devotees around us? Each and every devotee, a divine spark of Krishna's splendor. Ādi-līlā Prabhu gave class a few weeks ago, and he was sharing this letter that Prabhupada wrote to Atreya Rishi. Anyone's ever read that letter? Atreya Rishi Prabhu. Amazing letter. And in this letter, Srila Prabhupada says that the devotees of Krishna are as good as kings. Every single one of them. Every single one of them. They're as good as kings. And we should become like the bumblebee. And always look for the nectar, the good qualities. Be honest, who here finds it difficult to always see the good qualities in other devotees? Okay, don't worry, Radha Govinda, even Srimati Radharani raised her hand. So sometimes it's not easy to do this. And that's why relationships are so very, very valuable and important. Because everyone, all of the devotees, are divine sparks of Krishna's splendor. And some years ago, after spending so much time in my devotional career, not focusing on relationships, but focusing on many other things. Project over people, let's say it like that. It's the mission, Prabhu. You know? And if you're not part of the mission, then you're part of the problem. Get out. But relationships are so important. And I started to realize that actually, in the spiritual world, everything is based on relationships. And actually, even in the material world, everything is based on. Because it's not what you know, it's who you know. And how well you know them. And how well they know you. Relationships. And actually, we've been given the opportunity, the wonderful and beautiful opportunity here in the material world to work on these relationships. Because it's almost for sure, if we're not ready to have good relationships here, there's hardly any chance Krishna's going to let you back into Vaikuntha, to Goloka. So here we got the opportunity to practice. So here's some tips for success. Who would like to be successful in relationships? Who's thinking, shut up, Jai-nitāi, just speak philosophy. We got to take prasadam. Finish now, quick. So the goal of our life is love, yes? What does it say at the end of the 10 offenses? Krishna prema. You know, we're just going for the goal of Krishna prema, which means love, right? Love for God. But we know if it's just a relationship between me and God, that's actually considered kanishta. So actually, we have to have love for His devotees. We can't forget the devotees. So the goal of our life is love for devotees, and our spiritual maturity is shown through the quality of our relationships. At the end of this life, Krishna is not going to be looking necessarily at how many books we distributed, maybe even how many harinams we went on, how many restaurants we opened, or how many buildings we built. We can do amazing things in the name of service, but if we don't have the relationships along with it, you may just be left with a big empty building or nobody on Harinam. Because it's all about relationships. What is it? Sachinanda Maharaj, Ranath Maharaj, they often use this quote, everyone wants to love and to be loved. But sometimes it's not easy to give love, to show love. And sometimes it's not easy to receive love either. But we have to work on these things because spiritual maturity is shown by the quality of our loving relationships. Who here is inspired? I know today is the anniversary of the disappearance of His Holiness Kadamba Maharaj. And I was meditating this morning on Maharaj's mood, at least the few interactions that I had with him in London. He was always cultivating such loving relationships with devotees. His seniors, his peers, his juniors. He was just such a loving and respectful, humble, caring person. The quality of our relationships. The best expression of our love is time. Recently, some devotees, they did a skit. After I stepped down as temple president, they did a skit where they showed what it was like to be me. And I was always so busy. Anyone here finds themselves overwhelmingly busy? Not you, what are you busy? I'm just kidding. He's always on Harinam. Oh shit, you know.
Busy on Harinam.
So we're often, even we can be too busy for a devotee, because I'm chanting my rounds. But we're on Harinam, leave me alone. But actually, they say the best way to spell love is T-I-M-E. To give time. To give time. Ramnath Maharaj said to myself and my wife that in all the years of his traveling, he said the thing that he sees most is the biggest need in our movement is for devotees to just have someone to listen to them, to give them time. Because often everyone is just so busy. And when you're too busy, then people don't bother you. And then people just keep, but we're meant to, Guyam Agyati Prachiti, we're meant to reveal our hearts in confidence. And focused attention with someone, to really be with someone. That doesn't mean like, Hare Krishna, Gopal Champapu, how are you today? You're okay? Yeah? Everything good? That's nice for me. Sorry, what did you say? What was that? Anyone does that? I'm sure none of you do that, right? Anyone sees anyone that does that? Don't say it out loud. That's okay. Yeah, my wife reminds me all the time that I do that. How are you, dear? Oh, yeah, right, sure, yeah, great. Because we're in ignorance, so we ignore people, even though we think we're giving them time, but our focus is not there. We're not like there with them, for them, sacrificing whatever it is that we want to do just to give them time and space. And that's just such a great gift. And when is the best time? Right now. Why? Why now? Why now? Why now? Prabhu, why now?
Because we have to do it eventually, so we better do something right now, otherwise,
Yeah, we're going to have to do it eventually, yeah, maybe in our next life. Well, because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen to us. We don't know what's going to happen to them. Right? We don't know what twists of fate the material energy is going to throw at us. Anyone here has ever had that experience? Of course, everyone here is relatively young. But as you get older, you start to see people around you genuinely leaving the world. And, we might think, some of us, disciples of Maharaj, should I have done more? Could I have done more? Should I have taken more time? Was I too busy like that? So I thought I would finish with this because today is Mahashivaratri. Aradhananam sarvesham Vishnu aradhanam param tasmat parataram devi dhāryanam samarchanam. Of all kinds of worship, the worship of Lord Vishnu or Krishna is topmost. But above even the worship of Lord Vishnu is the rendering of service to Vaishnavas who are related to Lord Vishnu. And that's from the Padma Purana. So Lord Shiva, who is Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu, is the greatest of Vaishnavas. He recommends to Parvati Devi, what is the highest worship? It's not worship of Krishna. Krishna himself says, those who think that they're my devotee, they're not my devotees. But those who are the devotees of my devotees, Gopi Bhartor Tarakamalayor Das, Anudas, they are my devotees. Hare Krishna. We have 45 seconds before 9 o'clock. But I finished the class before 9. We can finish now. We don't have to have any questions or reflections. But if anyone has any reflections, then you're most welcome. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu, for the
nice class. My question was, when you mentioned success for relationship, the second point was love for his devotees. So I found in my life that it's easy to love one or two devotees, but to love all the devotees, so love is a very broad term. So when we say love his devotees, does it mean, with some it will be a working relationship, with some it's a friendly relationship, but there are people in your close circle of friends or devotee association whom we cultivate love, and for spiritual also cultivate love. So I just wanted some elaboration.
Nice question. I'm trying to answer very quickly. So, Srila Rupa Goswami explains in Upadeshamrita that our reciprocation with devotees at different levels is different. And it's described that, of course, we're not Krishna. We can't be the best friend of everyone. Suradam Sarvabhutanam. We're not in everyone's heart. But we can have appreciation and respect for all of Krishna's devotees. And that may be according to our relationship. So relationships are unique. And so in that sense, they won't all be the same. And we may have in our peer group, like one or two very close friends that we would literally give our life for. We would do anything for. The main point is that we should cultivate those relationships, but we should understand that love is expressed in many different ways. Just like in the spiritual world, Krishna, there are 4 or 5 primary rasas or relationships with Krishna. But there are 12 in total. Actually, in some places, the Acharyas explain there are many, unlimited. But like that, there's so many different types of relationships, and they're not all the same. So, if your parents are devotees, or even if they're not devotees, but there should be a certain level of love and respect and appreciation. If you have a service authority, there will be a certain level of love and appreciation. The main point is that we try to cultivate a consciousness which is like that of the honeybee, that we just try to genuinely see the good and be grateful. What's that saying? If you're not grateful, you are a grateful. So we have to try to cultivate this, because this is love. And if we're responsible for juniors, then that's a huge responsibility. And that means we genuinely, definitely have to be able to give time. And we should be very careful that we don't try to take on more than what we can handle and give genuine time to. What is it? I've heard different people say different things, but some people quote Jesus because he had, 12 disciples. And they say, I think in the military it's 12 or 13 they assign, because they know once it gets past that, somebody's not going to be getting the attention they need. So like that, we have to give love, but we give it in different ways to different people in different circumstances. But still, it's love. It should be coming from a place of understanding that they're parts and parcels of Krishna, that Krishna is in their heart, and that we want to give them the respect that they're owed and due. It's not easy, and that is a true testimony of the fact that relationships are the highest thing, that it's a personal realization of God is the topmost, because it is the most difficult thing here. Personal relationships are so difficult. Families break apart. Husbands and wives can't stay together. Children leave home. These are meant to be the most intimate relationships, and they can't even stay together. What to speak of a bunch of strangers who come together in a room, all from different cultural backgrounds. But because we have Krishna in the center, we can unite on a different platform. But the relationships in an external manner will be different. Does that make a little bit of sense? No. Should we finish here? Yes? Okay.
You can continue the discussion after.
Round Prasad? Okay. so we can continue discussion, because my relationship here is a servant and this is my master, and he has ordered me. So I thank you all very much for your kind attention. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Śrī Caitanya-caritāmṛta ki jai. Tago Premanandi.
Jai-nitāi Prabhu ki.
Gaura Bhakta ki.